Let's get started. How is everybody today? Looking forward to spending time with you and all of us getting to spend time with Sam Brocato. Please use the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Keep it interactive. It is a roundtable, again, sponsored by Qnity. We've got, produced, created, curated, etc. by Qnity. And then we do have a couple of sponsors, Aura and Vish. They've done some awesome education in this on this roundtable in the past, and it's stored on our portal. If any of you are looking for recordings from previous week's sessions, let Michelle know. You can do it in the in the chat menu. Last week was awesome. We had Van Council returning, and it was a great share as usual. Great to get up to speed with Van, and I know many of you got a ton out of it. And then this week, we've invited back Sam Brocato, who we love talking to Sam. Sam and I had a little bit of time this morning that we'll share with you in a little bit. So we'll get to hear from Sam in a moment. Remember, past recordings are stored in the Plan for Profit curriculum. It's a complete body of work at this point with so many members of our Brain Trust. I'll show you our Brain Trust in a minute. We have one more session coming up in February. Are we taking a week off in there somewhere? Taking a week off in there. March through, okay, we're taking a week off. We're going to go south, all of us separately, different times, but all of us people in Minnesota are leaving town over the next 3 weeks, and we're doing it like staggered. Maybe you don't need to know all that information, but it certainly enthuses me. So the Brain Trust is an incredible array of individual contributors, of which several of them we're bringing back a second time around, including with Sam. So thank you for your wisdom, and the wisdom of this group as together we work on sustainability for you and your business and the professional beauty industry at large. You've got the 9 grid that can help you keep a mind map of your notes or storyboard, etc. Remember to use the chat. And then without any further ado, Sam, let's you and I have a conversation. How are you this morning? Whoops, hold on. Let's see here. Are you hearing him? I'm not hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now.
Is it clear enough, or should I use my headphones?
I think you're perfectly clear.
All right.
Visually and auditory with the ears too, yes.
I'm up against my white brick wall.
And we find you deep into New York City in Soho in your salon, correct?
Yes, I'm actually sitting in the office in the back, right here where Jenna and right at Jenna's desk, actually. And I have an office off to the side here, a small office, but yeah.
All right, well, you make sure you say good morning to Jenna. I actually think Jenna's on the call. So hi, Jenna, maybe Mark's on here too, so.
Yeah.
So Sam, I thought of you because a lot of different reasons. You always have some great wisdom to share and a unique perspective, and today will be no different than that. You also frankly inspire us and inspire me. And I thought how great it is to be inspired by you today. And you inspire just by being who you are. It's not like you try to inspire people. You just inspire because of who you are. And we all recognize that about you. And you've also got a really great handle on the business, your business. And then you also are a major contributor in the professional beauty industry. I did want to give you a shout out. You're an Intercofure board member. I know your partner in crime, Sheila's on here today. We probably have some other Intercofure board members. So anyway, I know that you put a lot into the industry, and thank you for joining us today. So good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here. And all things are becoming wonderful in New York City. We're really starting to turn the corner here. It's exciting. And, you know, New York City is a bellwether place. Don't count it out.
You used a word there. It's a bellwether place. And I know what that means. And most people on this knows what that means. But what does bellwether mean? I mean, if an eye on what's to come is a very, slang definition of it.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea that the bell in the town square would ring for the weddings, it would ring for the celebrations, and it would ring mournfully for the passings. And the bells that are out for the ships, there's just all these versions of it's signs. It's a sign. And walking around New York yesterday, I was walking with Holly on the west side, and I noticed a lot of places for sale that were condos, real estate condos, commercial condos. And I'm a real estate person. I love it. And instead of looking around and only seeing lots of boarded up windows and lots of businesses gone, I instead jumped past that chaos that was so evident. And not only the fact that we had just got hit in our Uber, so we had to get out and start walking because we were in a minor car wreck. But I'm walking, yeah, I'm walking and I'm looking, I'm going, oh my God, look at all this opportunity. If we wanted to buy a space now to move our whole team into, instead of paying high rent, we could possibly do that. And so I think it's really, you have to look at the possibilities coming. And what's happening in New York right now is every day we're seeing the client count is slowly creeping up. More people on the street. The guys I was with yesterday at this closing we were at were complaining about the traffic coming back and how wonderful it was during lockdown. They could drive around in their Teslas and everything was cool. And so I think if you pay close attention to the little indicators, they're the bellwethers. And let me tell you, New York has had way too much invested in its history to not come back strong. Holly's spending the day today with Jenna's fiance, who is a head celloist on Broadway. That's what he does for a living. And he's helping her with some things because he's not working right now. But believe me, Broadway will reopen. People are already starting to buy tickets. And I'm not just here to pump New York City. I have a business here. And I love New York City. I'm originally from Louisiana, but we've been here 21 years now. And I love it here, and I've seen it through 9/11. We got here 7 months before. 2008, we literally took over the salon in July of 2008. We couldn't have picked the worst moment. And we would every day work to build the business up. We went from 11 customers a day to 15 to 19 to 28. And I know the city has so much resilience. Well, this is America. This is America, and it really does in many ways reflect everything about our country. And some people, think that it's, too far to the right or whatever it may be. But the bottom line is everybody's here, and everybody that is here right now that I personally talk to, they are either in a very good mindset, our customers. I just literally heard a customer right outside the door here. Someone said, "Hi, how are you?" And she said, "Well, I think I'm really getting better." And probably 50-plus-year-old woman, maybe got her first vaccination already. And that's one of the indicators we're watching. Who's getting vaccines? Some people don't want to, but New York is a bellwether, and it's ringing again. It's starting to ring. I've been through it twice before, and this is our third time, and we can just feel it. As I mentioned to you earlier, real estate. The clip of apartments and houses selling is at an all-time high right now in New York City. And the beauty of it is you could move to New York City and get rent at 35% less than you would have been paying back when you lived here, Tom. Probably in that same building, I bet you could get 4 months free rent, literally, and then a rent that would be equal to what you paid back then.
Yeah, it was 3,500 back then. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. So my mind's just racing. There's so many things that I want to, you just laid up several different things that I want to address. First of all, the whole idea of being a bellwether and really an indicator of what's to come I think that's really important for all of you as you're listening today, because sometimes you might isolate, so, oh, that's New York, because we have people from Oklahoma, they're from Minneapolis, they're from all over the place. So while what goes on in New York doesn't necessarily as a one-to-one reflection of what might happen, it certainly is a good indicator. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think it's also more likely that Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I was raised, I'm born in New Orleans and I am a Louisiana citizen and pay taxes there. I have my driver's license from there. But I think that if you look at the Louisiana Baton Rouge of today compared to 20 years ago when we came here, it's more like the rest of the world because of how tightly connected we are digitally. So yes, there are plays and there are outdoor events and all these wonderful cultural things happening on a huge scale in New York City as it begins to come back. But Baton Rouge, Louisiana is doing the same thing. It's a wonderful town and the same types of things are happening. So I do think that America is more like New York than it ever was before. And part of that isn't because America sat back and watched 9/11.
Yeah.
Holly and Gianni and I watched it from the 36th floor deck and watched the second tower fall and watched the jet airplanes flying almost. We could see the faces of the pilots. We were so frightened, but we
Wow.
jumped into action. And what my point though is, this isn't a world looking at New York. This is the whole world on the same page with one huge virus that has taken us to our knees, has caused us to take levels of reflection and insightfulness, fear in ways we never thought we would be afraid, no matter how big our wallet was, no matter where we were fearful for our country, for our friends. So I think we're more alike than ever before, personally.
You also touched on real estate, and you said you're a real estate guy. And I can't tell you how many very successful salon owners would also say the same things, the ones that got into real estate. And listen, I'm not necessarily giving like a knee-jerk recommendation, hey, buy real estate. My point is that you've done a really good job, as well as several other key players in the beauty industry with real estate. And in many cases, that's where the ultimate liquidity came out of the business. In fact, I've taken 2 trips this year, only 2 trips. And both of them were with clients, whatever. And both parties said, I feel like I'm more in the real estate business than this. I made my money in real estate, not in salons. Sorry for those of you that out there that don't own real estate. And I'm really just stimulating the conversation with Sam about real estate. So go a little further.
Well, I mean, I started out in real estate because and when I first started my business, I mean, 1976, and I was taking all the cash because I didn't know you weren't supposed to just keep the cash in your pockets. I thought that's what you did. You put the checks in the bank. There were no credit cards hardly. MasterCard was just starting. I didn't have it. So you put the cash in your bank. Well, I told my girlfriend, Valerie, I said, look at all this money. And I had over $3,000 stashed away, which was a lot of money back in the 1800s. So what? She goes home to her mother, Dee Cothran, and the next day, Dee comes into the salon, in my first little salon, and says, Sam, Valerie told me you have all this money. And by the way, what were you doing with showing your money to my daughter under your mattress? Anyway, which is true. It was all under my bed. She said, you need to buy real estate. I had no clue what she was talking about, but I bought a $19,000 duplex on Bergen Street near Louisiana State University. And that was my first taste of, oh, you can live upstairs and the person paying the rent downstairs is paying the mortgage for you. You're living rent free. That's about as simple math as any, pardon me, hairdresser would need. And that was it. I just got hooked early. And then I had another small thing I did and on and on and on. And then I eventually realized that even if the people that work for me came and they come and they go and they come and they go, if I can own the property, the underlying asset, even if it's tiny. Let's say you have a 4,000 square foot salon right now and you're renting it. In my opinion, you would be better off downsizing to a 2,800 square foot property that you can buy. And then as that equity grows over a 5 to 7 year period, which it will, if you, particularly with these interest rates, and if you buy on or in the money, as I call it, then you're going to be able to upscale and go up to a bigger place, or maybe buy the place next door. But you need to start it if you're going to do it. Now, the flip side of that, and just one more comment, if you take that same cash, the money, I just bought an apartment yesterday, if you take all that money and put it on a really great group of stocks, you probably, or most likely, will do as good or better in the very long run. I can't say for sure, but there are 2 schools of thought. Mine have been real estate and some of the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a great, simple way to approach it in terms of what to do with your investment capital.
Yeah.
Comparing real estate to other alternative investments, and it's some.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I am. One other important thing. If you are an owner operator, not an investor, and you're going to run your salon and you're going to show up there and try to buy, and you're going to buy the building, you'll get much more favorable treatment from the bank.
There you go. Good wisdom. I love that. All right. Now, one of the things that I caught you doing is what you've been doing last week and this week is, I caught you doing, that sounds terrible, is you're doing one-on-ones. caught you like, I mean, you're in the middle of that right now, and you've got 48 employees and you're spending an hour with each person. You've also got 3 new hires in March. So tell me what's going on with these one-on-ones. And hour one, so that's 48 hours at least. Are you in them solo? Is Jenna in? Is Holly in? Or how do you do these?
Well, we're almost all of us in. I'm reaching over here. Jenna's probably watching or listening and going to kill me because I'm just randomly grabbing something off her desk. But so I'm in this year. I've missed I missed 3 because of we're moving. Holly and I are moving, and today I moved the one at 11 to do this talk with you, this call, and so we have 2 or 3 this afternoon.
Time out. Jenna said, "Don't touch it, Sam."
So basically, because we have a small space here, we have a big salon, 3,900 square feet, but the office space I'm in is basically, I mean, it's very small. I mean, another 3 feet on each side and about 7 or 10 feet that way. And that's it. That's all you get here. But that's fine. We make the best of it. So we're limiting it because we have a mask on. I have a huge HEPA filter sitting right here next to me. And so there's 4 of us in the room at a time. So sometimes it's Holly and I and the person in Jenna. Sometimes it's Mark, Jenna, Holly, not. So we rotate it. And we have, charts and graphs and things that we go through with them. And we go through all of their numbers. We tell them exactly where they are. We show them where they were the year before. We show them where we anticipate them being. And this is particularly interesting right now because what we're managing right now is the fact that everybody is frightened. And everybody at some level, somewhere, has some little piece of them that's frightened. They're either frightened because of what we've been through or what they're fearful they might go through. And so there's a certain level of fear. So one of the things we're doing is reiterating that, and I think I said this before, one of the reasons, other than it was a good time to buy, one of the reasons Holly and I decided to get a brand new apartment right in the middle of all this, because we were renting previously for a while, we owned before, but then we started renting, is to show our team here, we're not going anywhere. We're not leaving the business. We're going to stay here and stay with you. And we're going to make sure that you're safe and all the things that you need. So part of what we're doing is reiterating to them, everything's cool. We have money in the bank. We have the right backup to make sure that that's done. We've been extremely cautious. The only thing we spend money on here, I mean, it is all bare basics. If it isn't, maybe it's hair extension cash. We'll hit the credit card where we buy $500 worth of hair. It's hair color, it's shampoo, no superfluous. We have some things for the guests that are all wrapped or in a can. I bought a fogging machine and I've got my disinfectant that's hospital grade to fog the whole salon. It was cheaper to buy and do it ourselves. But so everything we're doing in these one-on-ones is helping guide a person, the people. So we took out the entire 100 days that we were closed last year, and we took that out of the numbers, and we compared 2020 to going forward into 2021, but minus the time we were closed. So yeah, numbers are different. So we do a thing that I learned a long time ago, and I think I actually said this on this before, SPR. And SPR, stimulus, pause, response. But we also do a thing called MPV, minimum primary visionary. I've been setting goals based on MPV for 30 years. So everyone gets an MP and a V. And we coach them and work with them and talk to them and keep the door open so they can come and go a lot. But we sit down at least 1 hour at the beginning of every year. And that basically we get their feedback. We want to hear it from them. Having been in the product business forever, some of the best ideas come from other people. They don't come from, the people making it all the time. So you listen, what do we need to tweak? And I cannot imagine a better time to pivot toward being positive, pivot towards progress than in the middle of chaos. Because right before this chaos, there's calm. Most of the time, it's building. There's chaos. Right after chaos, there's calm again, and there's growth and there's opportunity. So when we get caught in this chaos, we have to make sure and check in with everybody. Where are you? On the spectrum, where are you? Are you about to jump off the cliff? You know, and we've been doing this so consistently, both the one-on-ones, but out in the salon. I'm constantly, and Jenna, Mark, and I, and Holly, we're constantly pulling someone aside. How are you doing? And when, now they know when we say that, we're not talking about, oh, you're busy enough or whatever. We want to know how you're doing. How's your head? How's your heart? Do you feel undernourished as a human being? Because if you do, we're here to help feed you.
Yeah, I've got so many comments here. I'll start with a couple observations actually, and one of them is that there's nothing wrong with just having a everything's cool one-on-one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it, you know, yours is more robust, but I think those occasional check-ins are huge. And I love that you're having these how you're doing sort of mini huddles with people and staying really, really connected. You know, and I know that. Aaron and I were just on with someone yesterday, and they've got more than 10 locations, and they noticed the difference between the locations that are doing well and the ones that didn't. The biggest X factor was communication during the pandemic, and they had a recommended protocol of, you know, checking in on a certain basis, and the ones that did it still have a full staff, and the ones that didn't. So and I know you always were very proactive in your communication. All right, what else do I got here for you? I've got so many other things here, and I don't want to run out of time. You got, we had this whole discussion about hitting the pause button. And let me, this really relates to this whole thing of the airplane checklist. And so I'll have you, I won't prompt you anymore on that one. Go for it.
Last night I was flipping through Instagram and I saw someone, I wish I could remember her name, but she's in Colorado and she's just amazing. Beautiful hair and tattoos and just so energetic, but she's sitting in the window of an airplane, a beautiful little airplane. And I thought to myself, because in 2008, right before the crash, I got my pilot's license. And I was going out to the field and I was getting, and I loved going up into the air, and then boom, the bottom fell out. And I haven't been back flying at all. And part of what I learned though was the walk around, the checklist. And you go and you under the wing and you get some water, you take gas out of it to make sure there's no water in your gasoline. You check the prop, you check the tails, you know, there's all the rudders and there's all these things, you check all these things. And it's the same way, both personally and in business. And the thing is, I was thinking about after you and I talked a few minutes ago, I was putting my jacket on and I basically, I have a uniform. I dress up in black and I've got 10 dozen t-shirts and all. I do that because I want to concentrate on a lot of other things. I have closets filled with phenomenal fashion from all around the world that I just don't spend a lot of time with that. But what I do is I check in with myself. How am I feeling emotionally? And that my checklist. How am I feeling about the people that I'm spending time with? What kind of energy am I getting back? Is my life balanced? And am I really going through that checklist? Am I financially on board? Am I, and probably the most difficult thing that happens to all of us, other than emotional challenges we have with the people we love and spend time with, is financial. And the financials will drag you so down because you become so obsessed worrying about it. I'm kind of the other way. I worry about it, but I am a small business person. And I venture to say, even someone, you know, like Van, who is a dear friend of mine, even though he's got a huge organization, it's still a small business on scale. Big businesses are billion-dollar businesses, they're bigger and bigger. So I spend every day going through the financial health of my business. Maybe not on Sundays, but I do it every single day. And so for me, that checklist of how the people are, how's the cash flow, and being ready for calamities and problems. Most people that really freak out, they were just not ready. And it's proven. They're closing their businesses, they're losing their businesses. But as I said before, I don't care how old you are. You can be my age. I thought I was old the other day. I went to get the vaccine. And right when I said something about my age, a man next to me said 31. And I realized he said 1931. That made him 90 years old.
Wow.
and he was getting the vaccine. He was by himself. I sat close to him afterwards. I helped him put his coat on. I walked him out on the snowy street and helped him get in his car, because respect your elders, take care of those that are willing to go that far and take care of themselves. But I realized that if my part is to keep stepping up. So even if you've had the worst calamities in your business, it is never too late to start over. Start again. Take just what you have and work with that. Take just the people who want to be with you and want to support you and work with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to calamities in a moment, but before I forget, your checklist and your categorizing different parts of people's lives sounds very familiar to something that Qnity referred to as the 5 Alls. And so maybe Aaron or Michelle, you can post the 5 L's. We actually have a life map exercise built on that. It's financial, it's professional, physical, relational, and spiritual. It's a structured way to do that. So I love that. And then what you were just mentioning here, I've got so many different things I want to explore with you. There's something else I wanted to ask you that you were just talking about here. Tragic, or being in a tough situation. And I'm not going to ask you to maybe share anything to but you've had a few struggles. You've had a couple times where business wasn't exactly perfect. And really, to speak from experience like that, I think means a lot to the group here, is to realize that you're not just saying that because you're saying it because it sounds good. You've experienced that. You've experienced, being in the dumps. So
I think I've never really talked about this, but I'll tell you that one of the things that was very difficult, some of you may know I used to have a product line called Brocato, kind of like my name. And it went up and down, 6 million, 11 million, 17 million, 12 million, all over the place. And I had a partner in it. And at some point, and I was getting some money out of it, a fair paycheck, and for quite a while. And at one point, it just got to a point where I knew it wasn't going to work. And it's still there. It's small, but it's out there. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I just said, you know what, to my partner, I said, you keep the house and the kids, and I'm going to go. And Holly and I are going to go, and we're just going to start over. And I had a 3-year non-compete, and I sat on the sidelines, worked on this lawn. And let me tell you, I put it behind me, but it's pretty difficult to not only give up on something you worked your years and years on, and then eventually walk away from it. But I can tell you absolutely positively for sure that we started anew, and we are doing we do have a new business, and it's growing, and it's even through the pandemic. So I believe that the worst things that can happen to you really do define who you become. And if you stop too soon or you give up too soon, you never get fully formed. And to me, life is an incredible journey. And there are moments where you think, I'm going crazy. I mean, you literally go, I can't deal with this. I mean, I went to the hospital. They put the tube down my stomach. They said, you don't have an ulcer. You're just stressed out. Mm. And that's true. That happened to me twice. Back in that bad times when my business was about to fail. I had 190 employees. And I'll tell you, 48 employees or 50 or so, I'm happy. We have a great business and we can really cuddle people and all, but I admire those who really push hard. So yeah, I've had some real calamities. And by the way, I don't even know. I think I've probably opened and closed and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7 or 8 salons that I attempted to open or run, and they didn't work out. One here in New York last year, the landlord wouldn't help us. Boom, we're out of here. And we brought everybody together in one place, and we're working as a super team now, and things are fine. Things are fine. We're gonna get through it.
Talking about the numbers a little bit, how's the year going so far for you?
Well, actually, we just finished January with a profit. So, and that's not much, but we're down 38% in total sales about. But we're growing and stabilizing. Our customer count is going up. And what I know you've probably heard a lot of, we're seeing a lot of new customers. We're seeing a lot of new guests, lots of people coming through the door. So I think the biggest thing about the business is itself is always keep dry powder, always sit back and, and be be prepared. Make sure
What
you,
do you mean by dry powder? I think I know what you mean, but what do you mean by always have dry powder?
well, I tell you about that, what happened to me yesterday, that stupid little mistake I made about that,
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah.
money. So dry powder to me in part is have a line of credit for the business,
Yeah.
have a contingency plan. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine that's a salon owner that owns salons in Brooklyn, and Michaela said to me the other day, I always know what my end game is, and it's real estate.
Hmm.
So know what your end game is, even if it's 35 years from now. Start thinking about it. Walk way out there, draw a circle, and stand in that circle and say, this is where my end game is going to land. I'm going to be standing it, and then imagine it and put yourself there, and you can make it happen. You can make it happen in part by meditations and calmness and imagination. You know, I walked by a window yesterday and I saw all these little toy cars in the window, you know, like little police cars and taxi cabs, little bitty things. And for just a minute, I thought, wow, I remember playing with little soldiers and little toys out in the dirt in my backyard when I was a child, and I was lost in a wonderland. How about being in that wonderland now, even at this point? What does it take to get you back there? It takes a pause. It takes the ability, you know, to stay calm, surround yourself with the right people. Instagram is fabulous if you track down the people saying some beautiful, beautiful things. But Instagram can also be toxic among all the social medias. There's so much stuff out there. But it can really enrich you, but you have to follow the path of graciousness. And that's where you're going to be the most blessed. And in fact, following some people on Instagram that are very positive, you can reach out to them. So
I got one other area. I mean, that's a great way to sort of end our conversation. You've already had many moments. I really love the pivot towards positivity and progress in the middle of chaos. That's a good one. But I got one final thing that you shared with me when we were speaking, and that has to do with leadership and the ability to take the temperature of communication and really understanding you can have one culture, but people have different ways to communicate. And with a range of employees from 15 to 50 plus, you know, it's a rich ecosystem to have the generational. So there's really two things here. It's really acknowledging the, you know, generational differences and celebrating and what you're seeing with the less seasoned and more seasoned.
yeah.
And the other thing that I was really interested in actually hearing a little bit more from you on is adjusting your communication based upon the team. And you did give a great shout out to Jenna and Mark and for Holly on that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's talk about that just for a couple minutes and then we'll close, okay?
Yeah. So the concept of having not only just young people, new people, fresh people, our 3 new hires are all, I think, under 28. But we've got a group of people here that go right up to right about 50 years old, down to about 19 years old. And the other night, Holly and I were talking, and she said, by the way, do you know what I noticed is that the older crew, the older, more mature crew have, quote, adopted Victoria, who is the youngest she's the new girl on the block. And they've adopted her and they're helping craft her into this woman that is going to be empowered with her craft and empowered with her communication. And it's going to feel safe and not be afraid to speak her mind and share what she needs. So to me, leadership conversation and leadership's vocabulary is not the same as the vocabulary of the people. The people that are in the organization, you can speak their language, but the language that you have to speak and think by is different. Leadership takes a different type of both study and a different type of compassion. It's like when you stop to speak to a small child, what do? You slow down. You may even kneel down. That's because you have to understand exactly where a person's heart is to be able to understand what their head is and understand what's going on in their world that's driving their head. To me, I love people and I love being around people and listening to them. I do hair still a little bit, and I love talking to my clients and listening to their world. And I'll end with this and say that as painful as chaos is, as painful as loss is, I lost a brother and a sister and my mom and my dad, all those moments rang a bell with me and said, this is a day of mourning, but tomorrow there'll be another morning. And so for me, this moment of COVID and all that we've gone through is a moment to really help finish molding yourself as a human being and a business person. I have a friend that lost a leg when we were 15 years old, and I stayed in touch with him all my life. And I said, how did you do it? He got married, he has 5 kids, his business and all. He says, you know what, one day I just realized I only have one leg and that's it, I'm going for it. And so let's say you had 5 salons and now you have 1. Okay, you have 1. Thank God you have 1. Maybe you lost everything. You probably know people that will help and support you. If you have a pure heart, people will step in with you and help you. So I'm optimistic as can be. And it's so cold outside. We get ready to have snow tomorrow.
Did you say today is for morning and tomorrow is a new morning?
Yes.
You said?
Yeah.
That's an incredible statement. Yeah. Wow. Well, Sam, what are you doing next week? No, just kidding. Thanks for joining us. This is awesome.
Tom, this has been last week when I missed, I didn't get to hear Van. I'm going to go back and listen, but this has been for me one of the things I've done for 35 or 40 weeks that has kept me grounded. This is a perfect example. I get on these calls virtually every single week. I think it's maybe 4 or 5, but I do it and everyone knows I do it. I'm in Qnity called Close the Door. And so thank you. And thank you, and Aaron and everybody at Qnity, because this is the real blessing that you guys started doing this.
Thank you. Well, thanks for being so loyal and helpful. So we do need to award you the $1 million light bulb.
All right.
However, now it needs to be a $2 million light bulb. So spend that $2 million wisely and watch for it because it'll be coming to you. So let's give Sam a big virtual applause.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for joining us today. Great work. We've got a lot of things going on in the chat. Let's see who's with us. All right, so who's with us today? And I know you can read some of the chats if you want, but I like to do a little bit of a roll call here. All right, so who do we got? Well, Karen Deanda. Karen, I do believe it might be your birthday today. Would you please acknowledge if that's correct? So happy birthday, Karen. I think Mark Gonzalez Pardo. Mark, I believe, yes, Karen, happy birthday. Mark Pardo, I think your birthday was yesterday, so I thought I'd give you guys a shout out. So good morning, Amanda, from down in Georgia. Always wonderful to see Amanda on here. Brock and Candace, Christine Griffith, Connie, Jackie. Hey, good morning, Jackie. James Griffith, Jan Hill, Jenna, your colleague. Hello, Jessica R. So glad you're with us from Minneapolis today. Joe and Karen Deanda, Carrie, Carla from California. Hey, Carla. Hopefully business is doing well over there for you. Kate, thanks for being a guest from Ilof. Kelly, Kip, we need to talk. It's been too long. I saw a little message there, so we'll be talking soon. Good morning, Linnell. How are you? Melissa, Nina. You got Trish, a fellow board member with you. Sam, she's on here. Salvador's on here too, also a board member, as well as Sheila. Good morning, you guys. Rebecca, hello, Roman. Salvador, Shara, Sue Aarons. Hello, Sue. Hello, Terry McKee. Actually, another Integral.
Hey, Terry. Hey.
And Tracy, what's going on in Texas? My goodness, you guys are getting some weather. And then Trent Lang, I thought you were busy this morning, Trent. I'm just giving you a little wink there. And then good morning, Van. Van N, not Van C. So, all right, let's see what else we got here before we read. Do you want to say something?
I do. I sent Salvador a photograph just now, right before we started. 2 nights ago, I walked around the corner and Sean Lennon owns a home. Most people don't know it, but it's right here by Salon. And I looked up and for the first time, he had the upstairs lights on. And in the window, I could see his guitar collection hanging on the wall, which I immediately—
Are you gonna hold it up to the screen?
I immediately,
wow.
I immediately sent it to about 7 guitar guys, including Gino Stampora, who I mentioned earlier, and all of them were like, "That's John's Rickenbacker. That's so amazing!" And I thought this was the coolest thing in the world to see this. But I sent it to Salvatore because he's an amazing guitar player. Anyway, that's all.
Oh, Salvador,
Look,
might have to have you do a little jingle at some
oh
point.
yeah, that's a great idea.
All
Look for
right,
the,
Salvador, we're gonna invite you to have a little music as a guest with us. So, all right, let's see what else. If I have any other tasks, announcements, thoughts. We've got Sam as the guest here. Wow, I didn't know that we did this fancy polished quote of yours, Sam. I'm
oh,
seeing
I
this.
posted it.
We are crushing the big boulders to make rocks, to make gravel, to make sand, to make concrete, to build again, never stop grinding. I love that. We actually put it into a formal quote for you.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
we've already awarded the light bulb to you. Reminder, if you need help, coaching, support, etc., Qnity in action. We have got some great coaches if you want some help. A lot of people are really opting to not take the journey alone. We do have a complimentary, we call it a gap analysis, where we go through the different functions of your business and different gaps. It's an amazing experience to go through. So we'd be happy to do that with you. And then I've actually got some comments about grow and go for a moment, okay? Because this is really the only sort of content that I'm gonna bring today. And but let me see what else we've got here, because I want to share with you something. All right, I've got a closing thought here too, but all right, so something that I wanted to just mention to all of you out there is the world of taxation today, and what is potentially coming with tax changes that could very well go into effect in 2022. Certainly taxes look like they're going to go up with the new administration, but there's a couple of tax areas that I want to highlight, especially for those of you that are considering a transaction. A transaction would be selling the business, it would be buying a business, it would be bringing in key employees, a transaction. And usually with transactions, it triggers something called capital gains tax. And the capital gains tax right now is 20%. That is proposed to double at the higher end, for even transactions over $1 million, which in several cases in a salon sale can absolutely happen. So we are expecting perhaps more of a wave of people taking advantage of potential changes in capital gains tax. That is a really big difference from a maximum of 20 to 40%. And then there's another area that relates to this. It deals with estate taxes, which are basically death taxes, and the different favorable tax terms that are available in multi or generational pass-throughs. So that also is subject to some very, very big changes this year. So make sure you don't lose track of tax, because the percentages are staggering in terms of the potential changes. And if you are looking at a transaction, Roman asked a question, is it going to be retroactive? No one can answer that question. And no one can answer the question whether it's going to be retroactive or not. I think the sources that I'm looking at do not believe they will be retroactive, but they're all pretty certain that there will be changes, and capital gains has been a big target for a while. So just heads up on that. So those are just a few things out there. Ouch is according to Roman. Yes, Roman, ouch. So it's better to know now, Roman and others, than when it's too late. So some of you might want to be very proactive in some of your planning this year because of what we just discussed. All right, the final thought I have is we're in the middle of creating a new program here, and we're getting out of our comfort zone with doing some new filming and a new program that I'll tell you about in the future. But I love this quote. And I'm going to leave you with this quote, and I'm going to hold it up to the screen, okay? And what it says is, Orville Wright didn't have a pilot's license. So many times we get into areas that we're not comfortable with, and we don't know, may not feel like we know what we're doing, but you know what? Just grinding along and moving forward and learning as you go is not such a bad thing. Sam, little did I know that your whole pilot story, when I first pulled this quote out, it was sitting on my desk over the last couple of days before I even knew. So anyway, I guess this is also in your honor, and thanks for being a guest. Guys, let's see if we have any final thoughts here from the community. Burr from Oklahoma City, I saw that. Clap, clap, you're getting some claps there. Mark Gonzalez, yes, you are welcome. Carla said you're one of a kind. Karen. So we've got a lot of people weighing in here. So, all right, guys, we are on next week. Then we're going to take the week off after that. I'm not quite sure who our guest is next week, but you can pretty much be guaranteed it's going to be somebody that's great. But thanks again for joining us, guys. It's 12 minutes before the hour. We'll see you next week. Thanks again, Sam. Bye, everybody.